All right, everybody, welcome back to everybody's favorite video series, Algebra 2 Honors Final Exam Review. This is part 2. We got the first 12 questions done in part 1. Let's see if we can tackle another 12 questions now. As usual, I will be showing you how to beat every question on here with as little work as possible, either with Desmos or with a graphing calculator, and along the way try to impart a little bit of knowledge here and there, maybe dust off the things I dusted off things I taught you how to do throughout the year. Okay, so number 13 just says the graph shows the boundaries for this system right here, and which of these 4 zones is the solution. And you know what, I'm not trying to do this thing by hand. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on Desmos. I just need to make sure that I type these 2 things perfectly on Desmos. So straight to Desmos we go. The first one is 4x minus y. And then it says less than. Remember, that is going to be over by the comma, down by the space bar. So shift the comma button, and then 3, and then boop, go down to the next one, x plus y. And the greater than or equal to, you're going to have to do it in 2 things. You've got the greater than, which is shift, then the period button, then hit equals up by the backspace, boink, greater than or equal to 3. And the double shaded zone is this one right here. You can see it turned purple because red and blue. So the purple zone is your answer. Let us go ahead and go back to our answer choices. It was right there, answer choice B. So simple, a caveman could do it. I just realized that you're probably too young to understand that reference. It's from old Geico commercials, before the gecko. Anyway, next. Ooh, check that out. 14 and 15 have I in them, imaginary numbers. Okay, so normally Desmos can handle these. However, the one that they've given you on the final is gimped, so it will not be able to do these. But the graphing calculator will, and you will have access to graphing calculators on your final, so turn it on. And the first thing you're going to need to do is hit mode and scroll down to where it says real. That means this calculator will only do real number things. You're going to scroll right to A plus BI and hit the enter key. Now your calculator is in complex mode. It can now do math with I. So second mode is quit, goes back to the main screen, and we could type exactly what we see here. So parenthesis, and then 7 plus 3. Now I is right there. See, it's written in blue. You have to hit the second button, and then you're going to close it up with parenthesis just to show you what's on my screen. It's exactly what's right here. Then I've got left-hand parenthesis, 5 minus 4 second I, and then close it up and hit enter, and it's going to give us our answer, 47 minus 13I, which is C. Please know how to do this on the graphing calculator before the final, because I don't want you to have to FOIL and remember that I squared is -1. Just, if they're going to give you the tools, stinking use the tools, right? All right. Anyway, all right, let's see, what's next? Same kind of question. We're just going to have to type exactly what we see here, and the graphing calculator will give us our answer. So we come back here. I'm not going to show you the keys anymore because I've showed you where parentheses are and I've showed you where I is. So, well, speaking of the keys, that is a negative. You have to use the negative button. If you use this minus sign, your calculator will say error, and it'll say syntax error. If when you're working your graphing calculator, if you see syntax error, that means you used a minus sign where you should have used a negative symbol, okay? So it's -3 minus 2 second I, because there we go. You have to hit the second button before you can get the I to pop. Then we have -3 second I, parentheses 5 minus 8 second I, close your parentheses and hit enter, and you see your answer is B. There it is. All right, now number 16 says solve the quadratic equation. Now, when we're solving quadratics, we hope that we can solve by factoring, but as you can see, you're not solving this by factoring. So can Desmos give us our answers? Yes, kinda. So let's just use Desmos to cheese it as best we can, all right? We have x squared plus 14x, plus 10x minus 14. Let's go to Desmos and let's type that. We've got x, that exponent button was the shift key, and then 6, it takes you up to the exponent position. Squared, hit the right arrow to get down. All right, now we have plus 10x minus 14. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. So I would like you to see that this graph, actually let me zoom. By the way I'm doing this is I'm holding shift and then scrolling on the specific axis. Anyway, I wanted you to see that this graph's axis of symmetry is at x equals -5. The quadratic formula will always show you the axis of symmetry. So right now, I know my answers are the same distance left and right of x equals -5. So if we go back to our answer choices, there's x equals -5 with some distance, and there's x equals -5 with some distance. So A and C are now garbage. All we need to know is how far to the right and how far to the left. And don't worry about the square root so much for now. Let's go back to Desmos and notice that from 5 to this answer, which is a little bit more than 1, if you had to go from -5 to that number, you would have to go 5, 6, and a little bit more than 6. So one of your answers is a little bit more than 6 away from -5. Now if we go back to our answer choices, the number 36 is a little bit more than 6. So I paused the video because someone came to my door and then someone called my classroom and I can't remember what I said beforehand. So for you that was really fast. For me that's been like 10 minutes. But anyway, what was I saying? I was saying that the answer for this question is a little bit more than 6 away from -5. And when we come back to here, the number square root of 39 is bigger than square root of 36. And square root of 6 is 6. So this one right here, oh, I crossed, not that one, pointing at the wrong one. This one right here says a little bit more than 6. Sorry about that, I had to clear my throat, away from -5. So that is going to be our answer. Worst case scenario is you type this on a graphing calculator, -5 plus square root of 39 to see if it matches the decimals that Desmos gave us. And we could do the same thing for this one. The only problem is, if you notice, all of these answers have I in them, which really, really stinks. So we could type this on Desmos, and so I'll do that, just x squared minus 2x plus 9, just to show you at least that you could see where that 2 of the answer choices are bad. So we have x squared minus 2x plus 9. So if you'll notice, this thing's vertex is at 1, 8, meaning it has an axis of symmetry of x equals 1. So if we come back to here, things that say x equals -1 are bad. Now the only question is, was it 2i root 2 or 2i root 3? And unfortunately, it doesn't really like to give you those kinds of answers easily. The best way that I know to do this is either by completing the square or by using the quadratic formula. But at least we're down to 50-50. And I am going to pause the video and I'm going to monkey around on my graphing calculator real quick and see if I can't come up with some magic. Hold on real tight, which for you will be instantaneous because it's just a pause button. Okay, so after a little bit of Googling and monkeying around on more than one graphing calculator, as it turns out, no. There's not an easy way to do it, unfortunately, without other extra programs on the calculator. So we will have to resort to the quadratic formula or completing the square, whichever one you would prefer to do. I'm going to be honest with you, completing the square is faster, but if you don't remember how to do it, the quadratic formula is maybe more reliable. I'm going to go ahead and complete the square because I think it's faster. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to subtract this 9 and bring it over here. So you have x squared minus 2x, leave a space for a plus here, equals -9. So I subtracted 9 from both sides. Now I need to figure out what number goes right there. And the way I do that is by taking this number right here, cutting it in half, and then squaring the result. That gets you -1 squared, which is +1. You put a +1 right here. But if you add a 1 to the left-hand side of the equation, you have to add a 1 to the right-hand side of the equation like that. Okay. Now this thing on the left side, x squared minus 2x plus 1, now factors perfectly. The two numbers that multiply to 1 that added -2 are -1 and -1. So I get to write it twice. Now over here, you get -8. Now, if you're trying to solve for x, you have to take the square root of both sides, right? Now, canceling the square at the square root is what creates the plus or minus, but check this out. That says the square root of 8. Well, -8, obviously, because but square root of -8. If you reduce the square to 8, it gets you 2 root 2 because this number is that. So we should have 2i root 2, which is how I know that A is the answer. Or you could just use the quadratic formula. Either way, you're going to get to that result. But I think this was less work. Anyway, number 18. We are on our way. Solve the quadratic. Okay, well, look, none of these have an I in them, so Desmos will do that for us. Thank goodness. And because of that, well, screw it. I'll just go ahead and do it. X squared plus 8x plus 5. X squared plus 8x plus 5. As you can see, axis of symmetry is at x equals -4. That means anything that says x equals +4 is instantly trash, so goodbye, goodbye. The only question is, how far away from -4 is my solution? So we go back to Desmos, and as you can see, one of these two, I don't care which one you click on, if you're trying to get from -4 to -7 and change, that is more than 3 away. More than 3 away. You know, 11 is bigger than 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So the square root of 11 is bigger than 3. More than 3 away. That's way too large. Or you could just use the quadratic formula. Again, completely up to you. Or you could complete the square again if you wanted to. You could subtract this 5 over, just to really drive home that process. If you subtract the 5 over, now take that number 8, divide by 2, you'll get 4. Drop my pen. Divide by 2, you'll get 4. Square your 4, and you'll get 16. So we add 16 here and here. Because whatever you do to the left, you got to do to the right. And -5 plus 16 is 11. Boink! There it is. Okay, this one. Tricky, tricky, unless you use Desmos. Let's go straight to Desmos. I'm going to type exactly what I saw. X plus, now square root is down here. Square root 3, get out of the root, close, open. X minus square root 3, close. And you can even do equals 5. And what you'll see is your answers. -2.8 and +2.8. Well, obviously there was a solution, and it wasn't pretty. So it's either this number or this number. Grab a calculator, get to typing. But here's the thing. The square root of 2 is smaller than 2. My answers were bigger than 2. That forces this to be the answer. But you could just grab a calculator and type those on a calculator to confirm. Next, straight to Desmos we go. It says, which of the following is a solution? Now, because this is a parabola, I know it's a parabola because x is squared, and because this is a straight line, I know it's a straight line because there's no exponents, there could be 2 solutions, but there doesn't have to be. And if there are 2 solutions, only one of them is listed here, so we'll have to just see what's going on, but of course I'm going to Desmos to do that. Let's clear this out. The first equation was x squared plus y equals 20. There's our quadratic. Hit enter. And then -3x plus y equals 2. There it is. Now, if we click on the graph, we can click on our solutions, -6, -16, and 311. 311 is right there. This one almost works, but it was negative. 311 was the answer. Popping right along. 21, same kind of question. We're going to put them in Desmos. And you know, when it's in Desmos, you could type the y equals, but you don't have to. The only time you have to type y equals is if you're trying to get a horizontal line. Like say I want the horizontal line y equals 4. If I just type 4, nothing happens. Nothing at all. You see? So the only time you have to type y equals is if you're trying to graph a horizontal line. Other than that, it'll just go ahead and do it on its own. So -x squared minus 6x minus 3, hit enter to get to the next one. -2x squared minus 12x minus 12. And as you can see, these two graphs touch exactly one time. They have the same vertex, -3, 6. -3, 6. Answer D. 24, the figure shows the graph of a polynomial f of x. Which of the following could represent f of x? So you could just type all of them on Desmos until one of them matches, or you could use a little bit of intelligence, all right? Now, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. I see that both of my endings point the same direction. If they point the same direction, that means the degree of the polynomial has to be even. So it cannot be a cubic, and it cannot be a fifth degree polynomial. It's either this one or this one. And you know what I see? I see that this thing has a negative y-intercept. When you're on the y-axis, x equals 0. If you put in x equals 0 right here, you get 0. If you put in x equals 0 right here, you get a negative number. So there is your answer. Or like I said, you could type them on Desmos one at a time until you find the one that matches the picture. 23. Literally find a solution to what makes it equal 0. I'm going to type it on Desmos. Oh, you know what? I don't even need to. It's factored. Hey, what makes this set of parentheses equal 0? -7. There's your answer. Done. It's that easy. And if you weren't sure, you could type it on Desmos. But why bother? It's factored. And because it's factored, I know that -7 is a solution. But you know, this might also factor and give us a solution. So just in case, let's type it on Desmos. I mean, obviously there's not going to be 2 correct answers, but just in case, let's go to Desmos just to show you what would have happened. Just going to type what I saw. X plus 7, oops, and then 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Closed. Ah, there are 2 solutions. Look at that. -7, which we found, and -1.5, which would be -3/2. Tried to get you. That was the only one that worked. But just so you know, you could type it on Desmos and see. And the last one for today's video, because that'll be our 12, is what is the product of these 2 things? I wish that there was a quick and easy way to do this on Desmos, but honestly, it would be more of a pain in the butt to do it on Desmos than it would to just go ahead and do the work by hand. Because in order to do it on Desmos, you'd have to put this in parentheses and then put this right next to it in parentheses. Then you'd have to start typing the answer choices until the graphs matched. And because of all the exponents, I do really think it's more work than it's worth. So instead of cheese in this one, we'll do a little bit of math. Product means multiply. Alrighty, the first multiplication, 5x squared times 2x squared, is going to get you 10x to the, and when you multiply 2 numbers of the same base, you add their exponents. 10x to the 4th. Well, that one's no good. Cool, cool. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we've run out of quick and painless ways to eliminate answer choices from what I can see. What's going to be a good color? I guess green. We could do 5x squared times 3x. That's going to give me 15x to the 3rd. And then I have 5x squared times -4, which is going to give me -20x squared. Now the -2 times 2x squared. -2 times 2 is -4. X times x squared is x to the 3rd. -4x to the 3rd. Alrighty. And then we have -2x times +3x is going to be -6x squared. And I'll grab the black one here. 2x times -4 is -8x. So if you want to add straight down, let's see what you get. 10x to the 4th. 15 and -4 adds to 11. -20 and -6 is -26. There we are. Is it? Nope. Ooh. Basic. Negative times negative is positive. Sorry. There we go. I think it's this one. 10, 11, -26, 8. There it is. Done. I wish there was a faster way. And unfortunately, there's not. And I'm going to tell you what really stinks. When I start the next video, I'm going to have to do it again with fractions. Eek! Fractions. Scared myself. Anyway, thanks nerds. See you in episode 3.